Hello and welcome to DriftTV. I'm your host Jesse McDonald and it's an absolute pleasure to have your company. I'll be with you over the course of the show. During the show we have drifting highlights from Queensland Raceway, Stanthorpe, Archerfield, some Drift All-Stars from the Europe and some short clips from Gympie Off-Road Short Course and Power Cruise Night. In Tech Talk, Kris Frome talks hints and tips about improving your car and your driving. In Driver DNA, we meet with international FD driver Forrset Wang, world time attack winner Michael Rosenbalt, world-class drifters Luke Fink, Josh Boettcher, Kris Frome, ADGP winner Rob White, our Hollywood Mad Max driver and drifter Eugene Artisan, Speedway champion Shane Heathcote, and we can't forget our special guest Red Bull V8 supercar driver Shane Van Gisbergen. So there's plenty of action to keep you entertained and strapped down. It's that time of the show where we must crack on with it. I'm Jesse McDonald and you're watching DriftTV.
Getting back to grassroots of drifting, I did about a year and a half, 2 years ago. A good friend of mine, Michael Rosenbalt, and I went and bought missile cars, you know, like we just bought these cheapest, crappest Sylvias, you know, with SR20s in them. And we go to Archfield, you know, and I promised that I was going to ride his car off that night. And anyway, he got there before me because I was delayed with something. So as I was reversing my car I just bought, I picked it up and drove it straight to the track. As I was reversing off, he came and smashed me as I was still coming down the ramps of the trailer. So like from that was, and then we went out and we just run into everything and we just kept running into each other and breaking windscreens and jumping on each other's cars and just hitting each other in the pits, and people were just, oh, that's terrible, you know, like we just didn't care. So I guess, you know, and I think that's what grassroots is about, you know, mates just having fun, and you know, they like to, you know, not all of them love owning a cheap car and treat it like crap, but I guess, you know, the grassroots is to take the competitiveness out and just do it as a fun and express your way of driving. And I guess I didn't kind of get that in the heat of things when I was, you know, really focused on trying to be, you know, I kind of, you know, you get a lot of beef from those sort of people, the grassroots style guys that, you know, think that we take the fun out of it and stuff like that, where we were having a ball. But I kind of got it. Once I bought that missile car and Mick and I went out to Archerfield a few times in those cars, we realised I get what these guys are doing now. So it really made me understand, you know, a different element to it, you know, like I guess it's like a surfer going out and surfing in the morning, or Mick Fanning going out to try to get better. There's two different elements, and you know, I think I kind of get that, and I didn't really know that kind of existed in drifting, and I think that might be even something I'll do in the future with drifting, is just get a car and just go out and just destroy the track and the tyres and have fun and not care, and you know what I mean? I think I can see how those guys enjoy it now. So
the grassroots, I try, you know, when I can, we get out there in the missile and get amongst it as much as we can. But yeah, I'm not, yeah, when I can, you know, I love it. That's where it all started for me, you know, grassroots, just you and your car and your mates just getting out there and just having a good time, you know. So I was all booked in for the last Matsuri and it was a bit wet, so pulled the pin on that one. But I feel like that's where the grassroots are, is that your Matsuris and just all your mates out and having a great weekend, camping out, good times, bit of drifting, yeah.
Do you like coming to this grassroots sort of stuff where people are just laid back after work, having a bit of fun?
Yeah, I mean, this is the heart of drifting. I mean, coming out to these small grassroots events, that's what it's all about. That's what we all started driving for, was just to go out with your friends on a weekend or after work and just enjoy yourself, have a good time, and, you know, burn some rubber. You're watching DriftTV.
Today in Tech Talk, guys, we're going to be talking about the diff on your drift car. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can make your diff lock. But the first thing you need to understand is that with drifting, the most important aspect of it is that when you put your foot in the accelerator, you want to make sure that both wheels are spinning at the same speed and at the same rate. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can actually make that happen. Now, if you've got a standard diff, a lot of guys might do a shimming to actually tighten the diff up using the factory LSD. But even if they actually go to that next level, some guys will actually weld the diff center so the actual wheels will always turn at the same time. But once you get up to that next level and that higher level, there are things like two-way LSDs and mechanical 1.5-way LSDs that make sure that anytime you're on power or off power, that the wheels are both locked up and going in the same direction at the same time. Because there's nothing worse than when you go into a corner and only one wheel spins and then it sends you off the track and become quite dangerous. So make sure you actually get your diff nice and locked and you'll enjoy your drifting a lot better.
I love going back to the grassroots. I want to do a lot more grassroots events. The hard thing is when the budgets that I'm at to do the events I want to do doesn't leave much leftover money to do the little events like, you know, Friday nights. Like most of the time when we do Friday night drift or like a morning session or anything like that, it's generally to test the car to get ready for an event. But I actually like going to like just basic grassroots events, no competition. You know, the most cool thing for me is getting people into the car, giving them passenger rides, you know, and just showing them the difference between this car and their mate's car, you know, and just go and have a bit of fun. That's one thing I enjoy more about it than anything. The concept and the idea of drifting is the same everywhere. You know, I still believe that the Australian drivers are world class. They could go to any country in the world, and they've proved it before. They can go to any country in the world and compete and beat them. The difference is, like when you got countries like America with Formula Drift, the car technology and the support and backup for their drivers is at another level. You know, people might pay out in Formula Drift because a lot of guys in the grassroots call it, you know, sideways drag racing and whatnot. But you know, these guys are reading suspension telemetry. They're going through that next level of what the car can do. Like any of these top-end Australian cars can go and compete with them and win on a one-on-one scenario, but it's the consistency that the guys draw through from that. Europe is a little bit more where we are. You know, they still have a lot more money backing support, but so they can stay out a little bit more, but they're at the same level as the top-end Australia. You know, we got guys in Australia now that are running up to 1,000 plus horsepower on their vehicles, but still competing against guys that have got 400 horsepower. And the way it's set up, and they still be competitive, and you can still have fun with these guys regardless of the power of the vehicle. It is growing. See, drifting used to be massive back in the days with Drift Australia, and that was where it was at its pinnacle. But it was also probably one of the most expensive time that sport was ever around. But it's sort of come back, and now it's growing up with events like Australian Drifting GP, DCA, Drift Challenge Australia. Those guys are bringing in sort of better drifters, more events, and putting it more based on the driving than it is on the money that the guys actually bring into the sport.
I would love to compete again. I really enjoyed the competing atmosphere. I mean, I'm a competitive kind of guy anyway. Unfortunately for me, I just couldn't justify the expense anymore. We're spending a huge amount of money to try and compete. And unfortunately, when I was doing it, we had the financial crisis hit, and we lost most of our major sponsors. We lost the TV, so it kind of took a step backwards for a while. But now that it's got ADGP up and running again, there's high hopes, I guess, for drifting in Australia. Oh my God, it's progressing so quickly overseas.
Welcome back. Hope you're enjoying what you're seeing, and there's plenty more to come. I'm Jesse McDonald, and this is DriftTV.
You're watching DriftTV.
Concept of drifting. So drifting itself is a pretty cool motorsport in the fact that it's not all about speed all the time. It is largely in competition. When you're trying to beat each other, you've got to have a fast car. But the fact that you can win a race by putting on the best show for the spectators and putting on the best show for the judges is awesome. So the way the whole system works is very exciting, great to watch. Super intense as a driver who's trying to do well, so you've got to turn up every time for 30 seconds each lap, sometimes less, and not make a single mistake. And at the level that I've been fortunate enough to race at in Formula Drift and ADGP, you can't make mistakes against these guys, and that in itself makes it an awesome sport to watch, I think, and a really cool sport to be a part of. It can be very harsh. Doing very well, doing great all day, and then making the tiniest error with that 30 seconds. But that's what I guess separates the better guys from the not as good guys. So and it's tough to get your head around. And I think I guess spending more time in the car and getting comfortable with the car is how you get there. But at the same time, you've just got to be able to turn up at that time and perform at the absolute peak, which is awesome. So the fact you've got to be sideways the whole time, there's smoke pouring off the car. There's door to door, there's contact, which is generally encouraged with either the wall or the other driver. That's cool. That's not really in any other motorsport. So it's cool to be a part of such an awesome sport and to have been able to be successful in it as well.
I think in the Australian scene there is enough drivers to make up an amazing top 32 field. At one time, it's just a hard job to get everyone together at one track, one vicinity at a time. I think that's the biggest problem with drifting, is just, you got 10 good guys here and 10 good guys there, and it's just hard to get them all together and make a super competitive series where it's just the elite and the best cars and drivers in one field. And having, I feel like you don't need a top 32 field, you need a top 40 field, and then you've got to qualify to be in the top 32. I feel like that's where you need to be to have a great championship and something that's going to go forward. We're not struggling just to make 32 drivers, having it open, and you've got to qualify for your spot to be able to compete. I feel like that's where you need to be to have a great series, the best drivers.
Drifting growing in Australia, yes and no. At the present time there is a bit of issues going on with a few events. It's just hard for people to obviously get venues sorted and obviously everything getting organised, and dollars is really a big thing right now. Everyone's pretty tight, so at this point in time, yes it is, but right now it's a bit iffy.
You're watching DriftTV.
Let's go. Here we go. I'm coming right in exact. With a brand new sound, you can pump in the streets. Here we go. I'm coming right in exact. And you know I got the flow that'll never play out.
Hey yo, they heard of me from Germany to Spain. The fame ain't concerning me, I aim to be verbally insane. On the murder spree, showing up the third degree of pain. Reign eternally, we came to take it further in the game. I was born on the same day as Keith Illin. It's only right that we give you rappers scraps with a street feeling. Keep filling my soul, I keep feeling my feet still on the road. Although it's cold, I just keep dealing with bass lines, kicks, hi-hats, and snares. With sample and ammo, we gon' hijack your ears. Cheers to all my peers who had my back for years. So my crew is fly when I do or die rap careers. So as the world's turning, the sun be still. I'm rhyming for a couple Heinekens and one free meal. I'm no blight cast member out of One Tree Hill. Still I'm too short, picked out with Palm Beach trip.
I'm coming right in exact. With a brand new sound, you can pump in the streets. Beat the flow. Here we go. I'm coming right in exact. I got the flow that'll never play out.
Yo, we bring the soul back like show with the soul clap beats. You know the vibe, large pro and triumph, old black sheep, about to snap like a Kodak on those that sleep. It's a known fact, we rap check the whole rap sheet. Run tracks like a pro athlete, except with no track beat. Just a flow that'll blow, gas leaks from the hot boulevards to the cold back streets. We keep it true to at least a few gold plaques deep. Deep as the wordplays get, I need a first aid kit, cause every verse stay sick in the worst way, slick from the first bass kick. Spots get blown on some candles on your birthday shit. This ain't boom bap, it's soul rap. From new rap to old rap, we represent. You know that it's proactive precedent, still glisten. For the fam who still listen, have patience and maintain, that's the realism.
Here we go.
Uptown, L-Town, Sweden, what up? Yeah.
You're watching DriftTV.
Welcome back, and it's that time of the show again where we say goodbye. And remember to visit www.drifttv.com.au. Have a look around our site where we have highlights of drifting, and as well visit our shop where we have t-shirts and some caps you can get and style out. Well, that's all we have for you tonight. It was a pleasure having your company. I'm Jesse McDonald, and this is DriftTV.
I might need a push.